All right, so I'm going to do just a video on order of operations in case you're still struggling with that homework. So remember, with order of operations, a lot of us remember Pemdas. And we talked about how, yeah, that's pretty good. But to be sure, even if you think about it horizontally, I threw in an extra letter, and then I asked you to circle the E and the R, exponents and roots, the M and the D, multiplication, division, and the A and the S, addition and subtraction. All right, I could tell when I looked at that practice problem for uploading student work that some of you were not working that out correctly, and it happened near the end of the problem. I'm going to show you that one in a little bit. You were doing addition before you did subtraction, and so that's what caused the problem. But anyway, so the circles around those letters is supposed to remind you that exponents and roots or radicals, those are really just two sides of the same operation. Multiplication, division are like equal operations. They're just inverses of one another, and so are addition and subtraction. So when you do this, you do parentheses first, then you do exponents and roots as they occur from left to right. Okay, you do multiplication, division just as they occur from left to right. Then you do addition and subtraction as they occur from left to right. Okay, you don't do addition first and then subtraction. You don't do multiplication first and then division. So I just picked 4 questions that were out of the homework assignment. So by now you've worked on that a little bit. And don't forget that you can use calculators on this. And so it's worth exploring a little bit and using the fraction keys if you'd like on your calculator. So with a problem like this first one, the multiplying that you see here and the multiplying that you see here would happen first. So I would do this first, I would do this second, and then I would do the addition there in the center. And if you were going to multiply fractions by hand, when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. So this would become 3 over 10. This would become 1 over 6. And then I'd have to add those. Now here's the place where I would really just type this into my calculator. Adding fractions is the one where you need common denominators. So you need common denominators if you're going to do this by hand. I don't really encourage you taking a ton of time though. But adding and subtracting is when you need common denominators. Otherwise, just type in 3 divided by 10 plus 1 divided by 6 and learn to use the fraction to decimal key on your calculator. So if I'm going to do it by hand, what I'm going to do is look at these denominators and try to find a denominator that I could use for both of these. Now, the smallest one I could use would be 30, but this works really well. A lot of times it's easier to see that 60 would work. And so I'm going to use 60 for the denominators. And then this would be times 6 on the top and bottom. Okay, if I want the denominator to be 60, I'd have to multiply the top by 6 and the bottom by 6, and I'm therefore not really changing the size of that first fraction. Then over here, I'd multiply the top and bottom by 10. Now I'm showing you that because I don't have my calculator and I'm just doing it by hand, but recall that I don't care whether you use your calculator on this. So you could have just typed in 3/10 plus 1/6. It would give you a decimal, and then it would ask you you would have to put it into fraction form. All right, so now that these do have common denominators, when you're adding, you have like fractions. 18/60ths plus 10/60ths would be 28/60ths. And I can tell that these are both even, so now I'm just ready to simplify the fraction. So I'm going to divide by 2. I might go in and say, okay, I'm going to divide by 2. And then I notice, hey, it's even. I'm going to divide by 2 again. And then that winds up giving me 7 over 15. Okay. All right, so you might want to use the ABC button on your calculator for entering fractions, and you might want to learn how to change back and forth from decimals to fractions. You can do that if you'd like. All right, now the second question you could just type in, but I kind of want you to understand why you get what you get on your calculator. Okay, multiplication has to happen first. So that would be replaced with 12. And now I'm using a vertical format. I'm bringing down the rest of the problem along with it. So I'm not just doing little pieces. And then I don't do adding first. I do adding and subtracting because they're equal operations. I go from left to right. So this would become 32. And then I would add 8 and get 40. And that would be my final answer. Okay. So definitely multiplication first because it is a higher level operation than adding or subtracting. But when I get to the point where I have just adding and subtracting, I do those as they occur from left to right. So multiplying first, then I go from left to right on the adding and subtracting. Okay. Now 3 and 4 just have a little more to them. Like problem number 3 has extra sets of parentheses and that kind of thing. What I would do here would be to multiply the 4 times 2 and get 8. And I would keep the rest of the problem, resist the urge to add the 3 and the 5. You can't do that because this is really multiplication here. So adding doesn't happen till near the end. You got to do the parentheses and the multiplying first. Okay. Notice when I multiplied the 4 and the 2 together and got 8, I didn't have parentheses anymore needed on the 8, but I still had this set of parentheses. Okay. So now I have 3 plus 5 times 15, don't I? And the multiplication happens before addition. So this becomes 75. And so I have 3 plus 75, which gives me a 78 on that. Okay. And then with problem number 4, what's going on there is I have the horizontal fraction bar. So I got to work out the top part, work out the bottom part, and then see if I can simplify. So don't come in and divide 3 into 21 or anything of that type. Okay, what you want to do is work on this area over in here where you have the exponents, the parentheses, the multiplying. You know, don't add the 21 and the 5 together because you've got to do all this part that has the multiplying and the parentheses and everything first. Then work on getting the denominator simplified. Then you look to see if you can cancel something out. So I would leave the 21 alone, have that plus 5 times, and then this would be 4 minus 1. So that would be 3. In the denominator, I'll go ahead and do the multiplying, which would be 12. And then I have minus the 9. So then I do a little more on top. I would do the multiplying next, get 21 plus 15. Go ahead and get the 3 there. Okay. And then this, I usually would just keep going straight down, but I'm going to just go ahead and go to the right. So that would be a 36 divided by 3. And actually 36 divided by 3 just turns out to be 12. So that would be my final answer. Now, if you had divided the top and bottom by 3, let me comment on this because sometimes people miss it. You'd have a 12 over 1, but don't forget 12 over 1 would be 12. Don't forget to simplify further. So your final answer needs to be 12. Okay, so that gives you a sense of 4 of the questions that involve order of operations. And let me go back and show you what I was talking about with the one in Blackboard. So, you know, under the upload work here, you had a problem to do. Okay, so let me snip that one and work it. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to work this one right here real quick. All right, so see how that was 25 minus 8 times 7 minus 5 plus 4. Okay, so the first thing you should do is inside the parentheses. Then this multiplication should be next. Then you should do adding and subtracting just as they occur from left to right. So I'm going to leave the 24 and have the minus 8 times 2 plus 4. That's going to be 25 minus 16 plus 4. Now, here's where several of you made the next step incorrectly. A lot of you did 16 plus 4 was 20, and then 25 minus 20 gave you 5. Okay, 5 is incorrect. So this is wrong. A lot of you did 25 minus 20 and got 5, but right there is where you went wrong. You did adding before subtracting. Okay. All right, so what you should have done at that point, let me write it again over here. When you were to here, you were okay. So let's start from here. But then adding and subtracting are equal operations. Like in that PEMDAS that you're using, adding and subtracting are equal operations. They just happen as they occur from left to right. So this would be 9, and then you would add 4 and get 13. And you can check me if you don't believe it. You can enter this right here as is on your calculator. It has built-in order of operations, and it will give you 13 when you get finished, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop this video. Hopefully you've already been working on the order of operations and are just trying to make sure you fully understand things. So I'm going to go ahead and post this in case you need some extra help with it.